It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We begin October here on Sports Talk with a great month. October is, and we're off to a Fantastic start with the football from this past weekend. Baseball playoffs underway. Yeah, it was a great weekend for football. Baseball playoffs underway, and great race in Charlotte yesterday with an exciting finish. So we've got so much to talk about. No, you want to focus on USC and Clemson and maybe some other games in between. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, Brian Leonard here from our studios in downtown Columbia. Yes, it was a very good weekend of football in that Clemson showed a lot of moxie, a lot of guts in pulling out their win against Syracuse. And South Carolina, very disappointing in their performance against Kentucky. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, you got two stories there. Clemson finding a way to get it done at home, and South Carolina really laying an egg in the first half against Kentucky and putting themselves in such a hole that even by really dominating the second half in terms of yardage and things of that nature, could not come up with enough big plays to score points to get back in that game. So the Gamecocks now have lost 5 in a row to Kentucky. Who would have thought that? That's interesting. Looking back years ago. And the Tigers, look, I had a coach tell me over the weekend after talking about that game, that's called a culture victory. It's a victory that teams that are at the level of Clemson and now have the tradition of winning, and the players who have bought into what they're doing and have helped to recruit younger players and bring them along. That's how you win a game like that, when you have to substitute at quarterback with a young guy, substitute on the offensive line, substitute in the secondary, and on and on. They found a way to win.
Well, here's the point I want to make about that. They may have stumbled in what they should have been doing in the first place against Syracuse. Because when they were throwing the ball over the lot, Syracuse was in the football game. When they said, okay, now we're going to go right down your throat, that's when they started beating Syracuse.
We learned two things about Clemson. Number one, they know how to make chicken salad out of chicken garbage better than anybody in the country, because they got that game from the inner reaches of their innermost cavity to basically pull that game out. So from that perspective, that's a win for them. And the other part of it is we've realized that a long-term situation with Chase Bryce at quarterback is probably not the most sustainable thing. And the other part of this, too, is I know that people are going to look at Saturday's game and say this is why Dabo Swinney shouldn't have made the decision. I look at it from the complete opposite perspective. This is why Kelly Bryant shouldn't have transferred, because of exactly what happened on Saturday, because then Kelly would have been in the game on Saturday. And don't forget the fact that the referees basically gave Clemson a very bad break on that play because of the fact that he was out of bounds before that hit. If the referees would have seen that and blown the whistle, then if he would have been hit, it would have been a 15-yard penalty, automatic first down instead of a fourth down and them having to punt, or he wouldn't have gotten hit altogether. So from that perspective, I'm not sitting here and saying that Dabo Swinney erred in making the decision that he made. I think this is more on Bryant. But more that we learned on Sunday night, and again today from coaches today speaking at Clemson, it seems that Trevor Lawrence is going to be okay. And if he doesn't practice tonight, he will practice at some point this week. He's still number 1 on the depth chart and looks like he'll play this weekend against Wake Forest.
Well, my key point is I don't think any of that matters. I think what happened was a freshman quarterback learned that in big-time college football, get the heck out of bounds or go down. I was yelling, go down, when I saw him stumbling.
And as for the Gamecocks, man, holy moly. When would you ever think that Kentucky, a basketball school, would surpass a football tradition-rich school like South Carolina? It seems unfathomable.
Well,
tradition-rich?
Yeah, I don't want to say tradition-rich.
They've beaten you 5 games in a row. They beat you 5 games in a row. How can you let that stand?
Yeah, it's embarrassing for South Carolina to lose to Kentucky in football 5 years in a row. And
more tradition-rich than Kentucky in football.
Not necessarily. Kentucky's got a national championship that it could argue about when Bear Bryant was its coach there. If you want to go back that far.
And Frank Kersey has an SEC title.
But
now,
anyway,
it was taken away. But
that's not the story here. The story is just how lousy the Gamecocks played all night long. It was a litany of mistakes by the Gamecocks, and you could spread the blame around. Jake Bentley was not good.
No.
The receivers were horrible.
Worse.
The running backs, again, were back to average. A.J. Turner, who, I still think should get more carries, has got a wide open run in the middle of the field and falls down.
Turf monster.
And on and on and on it goes. Missed a field goal. You got to give him a little bit of credit in that in the second half, the defense bowed its neck and allowed only 75 yards.
Yes.
But the damage was done. That period in the second quarter when Kentucky scored on 3 straight possessions starting at the end of the first and carrying over into the second pretty much did in the Gamecocks. So it was a step back for the Gamecock football team this year. And you wonder about, is that an indication now in year 3? Is that more of an indication of where the Gamecocks are now in year 3 versus maybe the good feeling after beating Michigan in the bowl game at the end of year 2?
I think some of the players are feeling pressure they shouldn't be feeling. In other words, now they're coming back on the field, and it's a dentist office trip. It's not having fun on the football field.
No, they had too much. They were running their mouths too much.
Well, and
it cost them some penalties.
Yeah, but that's not.
And it irritated the older players on the team who talked about it after the game. And, that's something that's got to be immediately addressed by the coaching staff. You can't be yapping out there and drawing penalties, especially in critical situations.
The J.C. Horn penalty was completely inexcusable.
Yeah, and the key point is you got to understand who you're playing. That's Kentucky style of play. They'll yap first, and then referees always see the second. That's the key. The other thing is they keep playing Kentucky's game. Kentucky mucks up the game. That's how they win. In other words, we had a kickoff, 60 degrees at kickoff, and suddenly we had all these cramps happening.
Well, they did cramp up.
That was,
or either they were faking it.
Oh, they were
totally faking it, Corn. Come on.
Faking it.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I didn't watch the television replay or hear it on TV. What were they saying on television?
They weren't saying it on television, but I could tell.
I mean, they were dropping, and I did not
flies.
see a single South Carolina player go down with any cramps. No, it was
they were not.
The temperature was by the midpoint of the game, it was in the 60s. It was 50. It was in the 50s by the time the game was over. It wasn't a particularly humid night.
Corn, there were poor acting jobs.
Well, why didn't somebody call them out on it?
That's the way it works, though. You can't. There's no way to jurisdict that.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I would think that across the way, somebody would have said something like, "Come on, give us a break on this,"
Here's the thing that's the biggest part is that this is Mark Stoops' 6th year at Kentucky. They were 2-10 and 2 seasons of 5-7 and 2 seasons of 7-6. This is the example of what happens when you give somebody time and you give them an ability to develop talent. This is what South Carolina has to do because, like I say before, and this is the comment that gets me in trouble whenever I say this, they are not like Clemson and Georgia when they can go in and shop for their players at Whole Foods. You need to develop players, develop talent. South Carolina's biggest problem is undeveloped talent. They're having to play a lot of freshmen and sophomores at positions where
not true.
They are not necessarily
They're playing a junior quarterback who took a big step back and looked lost.
Look at the secondary outside of J.C. Horn. They've got one experienced guy in the secondary.
They are playing receivers who have got a lot of games under their belts and couldn't catch a cold. Brian Edwards, one of your most dependable receivers, dropped 2 big balls. Debo dropped a pass. You can't have that. There's no excuse. Don't sit here and make excuses.
I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you the simple fact.
They played a lousy game.
They're not talented enough.
They're not. They played a lousy game, and I mean, I can't explain why the Gamecocks played the way they did.
They're talent deficient.
Oh, I disagree because here's the key. You were at the Clemson game.
True.
Those catches that Syracuse was making to save their quarterback, getting hit, double team, South Carolina dropped every one of those passes when they should have caught them.
Does South Carolina have a defensive lineman on their squad as talented as Xavier Thomas coming off the bench?
Well, don't compare their talent to Clemson.
I'm just telling you.
Don't compare their talent to Ohio State, but to the middle of the road of the SEC and most of the rest of the country, USC stacks up well if you look at the recruiting sources. We'll be right back.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
It is Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. The one thing that it was for both teams this weekend, South Carolina and Clemson, it was an injury-filled weekend. South Carolina had a bunch of injuries that either led up to or occurred during their game against Kentucky. South Carolina's Eldridge Thompson did not make the trip with a shoulder injury. Brian Edwards got injured with an ankle injury. JT Ebay had a knee injury. Jemias Williams a shoulder. And, of course, Jake Bentley, we could see very much hobbled, basically playing on one leg. They called that a knee injury. He is day-to-day, although, again, Corn, just looking at him during that game, it looked very precarious for him because he was, again, basically playing on one knee. They're going to reevaluate that, and Will Muschamp should have some updates on Tuesday. As for Clemson, Trayvon Mullen, who went down, rolled an ankle. They say he's going to be okay to play this week. And, of course, all the concerns are about Trevor Lawrence. Again, we won't figure out until tomorrow morning from Dabo Swinney, whether or not he will practice. But when co-offensive coordinator Jeff Scott addressed the media earlier today at Clemson at the Reeves facility there, he was calling it more of a neck strain than a concussion. Just from being there, though, I mean, he was down. And I don't want to say he was woozy or out of it, but I mean, it did seem like concussion symptoms, like what they said after the game. Again, I don't have access to the MRI or am a doctor, but, I think extreme caution should be taken from something like this. You do not want him playing in a situation where he is out there less than 100%.
Well, I'm confident if they're saying it's a neck strain, that's what it is. They're not going to play around with it. I mean, if he's concussed, then they'll put him through concussion protocol. They're not going to risk him, and they feel good about Chase Price and what he can do now. And, of course, that running game, they're going to line up and just, run it down Wake Forest's throat this coming Saturday, and they're not going to put anybody out there that is not able to protect themselves or run the offense. So I'm not concerned about that at all. 800-956-7266. Love to hear from you. Let's jump to the phone line, see what you have to say about the weekend past and the week coming. Clemson at Wake Forest. The line came out today.
16. -16.
Gamecocks are favored by
1.5
against Mizzou, and Drew Lock and his big arm coming to town. By the way, South Carolina, Texas A&M game, a 3:30 kickoff on the SEC network.
4 weeks in a row, they get the SEC network shaft. Can you dig it?
Yeah. Seth in Orangeburg. How are you, sir? And welcome into Sports Talk. Good to have you.
Doing good, Phil. How are you?
Man, we're great.
Good. They said Clemson's a 16-point favorite. That means they'll win by, let's say, 4 this weekend.
Yeah. I'm sick. I am done.
Of
course, I'm out of money anyway. I have lost everything I got
against the spread this year,
but
man.
I am done picking the Tigers to cover.
Done.
I had an 0-5. Here's we'll talk about our picks for the Sports Talk panel. The three of us,
all three of us had the same picks.
0-5.
All of us had
That's
the same
never
picks.
happened in the history of Sports Talk. 0-5.
Well, you know what we have to do, don't you? You know what you have to do now?
What?
You have to bring in Tannehill. Because South Carolina was 0-5 when he brought him in.
Tannehill, get in there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Seth.
I just wanted to say that game at Clemson was probably one of the most nerve-wracking, exciting, all-in-one games I've ever been part of. It was kind of a weird game. The offense was moving okay, and then Trevor gets knocked out, and then, everything happened. Chase Price, how about him? Looked good. Some super spectacular. He did everything he needed to and was supposed to do. I think, didn't turn over the ball except for that one pick, and then, just fed Travis Etienne, who I think should be a Heisman candidate, and just Travis and Tavian Feaster, I don't know, probably one of the top 5 running back duos in America. I mean, not even being partial as a Clemson fan, just that 1-2 punch, and then especially Travis. I mean, he's just a game changer. He was busting it up inside, saw there was nothing there, backed out and went to the outside and gained 10, 15 yards. That's just great field vision. I'm really excited. Really haven't seen anybody run the ball like that on a consistent basis. That Clemson's that much speed since, C.J. Spiller, maybe Andre Ellington. So it's kind of exciting to see a good, dominant running back there. I hope we can kind of, carry it over to this weekend. Trevor, just a little bit we saw, I think he looked pretty good. Just hoping he can, come back from this injury and be able to continue to get better and get some experience under his belt. He's going to need it coming forward, with some road games and stuff. But I'm hoping that Travis can keep the train rolling and maybe get some time to talk before the season's over with.
Travis Etienne, thank you for your phone call, is having a phenomenal year. Look at these numbers nationally. He is second in yards per carry at over 8 yards a carry. He is fourth in rushing touchdowns, and he is seventh in the country in rushing yards. So he is having that very special year. And, the thing about him is you don't have to give him a whole lot of room to run. He creates a lot of yards after contact, and he hits the hole so hard and with such velocity that he just blows right through there. Now, sometimes he does hold on to the football well. Sometimes I wonder about when he's trying to get that extra yard or two and he's pirouetting his body around, that he's going to lose the football. But he's done a pretty good job of holding onto it.
He's kept control. But the one thing I love about him is, and the thing that they always talk about him, is he's a violent runner. Yes. And the one difference about last year to this year was that you mentioned how he hits the hole. I think he was more of a dancer last year, but now they basically told him, look, your speed is your greatest asset. So if you hit the hole, you're going to hit it. And they don't need to create a very big hole for him.
Also, if you notice Clemson's offense a lot, they know he has great speed, and they want to eliminate as many people on the side of the field as possible. So Clemson used what I call the old-fashioned influence blocking, where they hand in the ball and they count one, and everybody flows in this direction. And he makes the cut off the tackle's hip in the other direction.
Feaster has come on too as well. And the thing about Feaster is he's actually gotten healthier as the season's gone on. He's been still rehabbing an injury, and it looks like he's now really much into his own. And the one thing that they all are all going to have to do continually, especially now with the young quarterback, is be good in pass protection. That's the one thing that kept them, at least held them back against Alabama last year.
Thank you for your call, 800-956-7266. We go to Singing Tiger in North Myrtle Beach. Is that right? Singing Tiger, what do you have for us? You got a song for us?
Oh, I got a couple of them for you. It's been a couple of years since I've talked to y'all, but now that Steve is gone, we got to crank things back up again.
Okay, what you got?
All right. My original song back a few years ago was Gamecocks, lame cocks, all throughout the city. The cootin' passes back, oh, what a cootin' pity. All together now. Shame cocks, lame cocks, all throughout the city. The chicken curses back, oh, what a cootin' pity.
That's just mean, man. That's just not
Please
nice.
Tell me you have another version for Kentucky. Is this what you're alluding to?
Don't you have a Clemson song?
Yes, here it comes.
All right, go.
Your tiger love is lifting us higher than we've ever been lifted before. Your tiger love is lifting us higher than we've ever been lifted before. So run the score up, quench our desire to leave the Gamecock in a quagmire. Go Tigers!
Wow.
That's good, man. You got a good voice.
BMI online.
Do you perform in the Myrtle Beach area somewhere? We can sell you some tickets.
No, actually, we've moved up to Sunset Beach, North Carolina.
Oh,
and,
you're on the way up, babe.
Yeah, just a few miles up the road, but it's still good country.
Are you all okay with the situations over there?
Well, the one back in along the Waccamaw River is not doing too well, but up here we're doing all right. Yeah, thank you for asking, though.
Well, thank you for calling. Appreciate you sharing that with us. And that's what happens when it's going well. You know, I'm watching that Clemson game on replay today, and the atmosphere at Clemson when you're winning and everything's falling into place and everybody's loving everybody, it's just hard to beat. Clemson is just a hard case to beat right now.
It was pretty solid at times, though, on Saturday. That was about as quiet as I'd heard it, but I tell you what, they were full of jubilation when that final score came. That was bad. Call the show, 800-956-7266. You can email us, talkback@sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at SportsTalkSC. DC Day tweets us, South Carolina is in need of an elite running back. The current guys are backups at best. I don't disagree. They didn't have Tyson Williams available to them. Mon Denson's a one-trick pony. A.J. Turner can't escape the turf monster, and Rico Dowdle can't hang on to the football. So, this is the fallacy that you run into now with South Carolina, is that you've got guys, and I know you don't want to talk about the talent deficiency point of this, Corn, but for some reason they're just not matching up well head to head with higher quality teams like Georgia and Kentucky.
Well, come on, Kentucky. They're having a great year. My gosh, they don't have better players in South Carolina.
No,
Benny Snell is better.
He's a really, really good running back. But, I look at South Carolina's team.
Their offensive line whipped the crap out of South Carolina's defensive line.
Not in the second half. In the second half, Kentucky had 75 yards.
That's all they had.
Let me say this.
They didn't need any more.
South Carolina's
they did.
talent is not bad. You go from point to point, they have got very highly recruited guys. But the bottom line is these are Muschamp's guys. He recruited every one of them. He personally offered every one of them. He evaluated every one of them. So he can't hang his hat on lack of talent, or any of them can hang their hat on lack of talent, because this is their team. This is not a team they inherited for the most part. So I look at a receiving core, which going into the season was ranked among the best, not just in the SEC, but in the country, and justifiably so. And they played well against Vanderbilt. They played in the first half horrible against Kentucky.
That Vanderbilt team looked real great against Tennessee State last week.
I'm just saying.
It looked real great.
There's no reason
against Notre Dame, though.
There's no reason. There's no reason for them to come out and play like they did in the first half against Kentucky.
No.
And I hear questions to guys after the game. Well, it was a big game. Were you tight? Were you too tense? That's inexcusable as a question to be asked and even considered. These guys have been through it now. They should not fall under the pressure of being in Kentucky and playing a regular season SEC game, and that negatively impacting their performance.
How many more times do we have to see a Gamecock team come up small in a big moment to know that they just don't have it?
What are they, 1-8 against ranked teams under Muschamp?
And the one was Tennessee 3 years ago.
Here's the key point. As we said before, and I still stand by my statement, that more football games are lost than won. South Carolina has Groundhog Day when it plays a tough, high-ranked opponent.
What does that tell you?
No, that doesn't tell me anything about talent, because a TCU can take you to the woodshed, or they play you tough. Why? Because they don't beat themselves. They don't throw pick sixes on the first series of a game. They don't fumble inside the 10-yard line. You don't do that. Receivers hold on to the football. If Syracuse doesn't make those tremendous catches, are they in that game with Clemson? No.
I'm not saying that or advocating for a quarterback change, but at least in that game, when you could see that he was on one leg, why doesn't he pull the trigger sooner when you could see that he just does not have it?
Well, I didn't see that because I was making my way downstairs. By the time I got downstairs with about 4 minutes to go, 3 minutes to go, Scarnecchia was already in. So I can't comment on how Bentley looked. After the game, he said his knee was okay.
It was terrible.
He was going to have a scan on it, et cetera, et cetera. You'll probably learn more tomorrow from Muschamp at his presser. But, by then, the cement was dry on this game. It was pretty much out of reach by that point.
Well, here's the issue, though. You were in the fourth quarter. They took the ball over with 10 minutes to go, and they drove it basically in between the 25s for about 6 minutes. If you actually score on that possession, you make this a ball game.
They threw a pick then, right? You're talking about the pick?
The 21 play drive. Yes. Where he threw a pick on he threw a pick on one leg.
That's the drive in which Edwards has to hold on to that deep ball, and then maybe they can score, and still there's 6 minutes on the clock. But when he dropped that pass, then that's when they went on that marathon drive.
21 plays, and you don't get even in the red zone.
All right, let's get to the phones once again. 800-956-7266 is the number. We go next to, I'd love more from Singing Tiger, but he's gone. Let's go to Barry in Fort Mill, see what's on a kind of song he's singing tonight. Barry, what you got for us?
Okay, I'm gonna sing a little bit different song than what y'all been singing. It's really something. I mean, Clemson has really got such a weak schedule and everything. I mean, they really ought to be mowing all these teams down, just stomping them in the ground and everything. But about the quarterback situation down there, I can't understand why Dabo didn't just humor Bryant and let him start the game. I mean, with the caliber of opposition they were playing, all three of those quarterbacks were going to get plenty of time to play and get plenty of experience and everything. But now you got a situation where this kid, been hurt. I don't know how bad he's hurt and everything, but it could be more serious than what it is, and he might be, susceptible to more further injuries.
Barry, you don't humor a guy when he's being outplayed by the guy behind him.
Yeah, he didn't want to start him or play him because that would mean he would not have the option to transfer. He could have done that and, of course, locked him in at Clemson. He could have started him against Syracuse, and that would have eliminated the transfer option for Kelly Bryant. But according to Dabo, he did not want to take that away from him. And, of course, by the time he could make that decision, Kelly Bryant had already decided that he wasn't going to play anyway. So he was going to transfer anyway. So he wouldn't have – once the decision was made to start Trevor Lawrence, that put the wheel in motion for Kelly to make his decision about what he wanted to do.
Dabo had to know that was possibly going to happen if he made
so.
That decision.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he made the decision when he made it, because he wanted to offer Kelly the opportunity, if he wanted to explore transfer, which he did, which is his right. And I think both parties are right for doing exactly what they did.
No, he's wrong for doing it, but he had the right to do it, Kelly. He's wrong for doing it, but he had the right to do it.
Why do you say he's wrong?
Because I believe you stay with your team. I believe you stay with your team. And he would have been rewarded in that game by coming in when Lawrence got hurt.
He wouldn't have gotten hurt.
Played.
Well, I think he was foolish for not keeping.
He wouldn't have gotten hurt.
No, he wouldn't have.
He was foolish for what, Barry?
How do you know he wouldn't have gotten hurt?
Certain circumstances.
Color speak.
No, I want to hear why he said he wouldn't have gotten hurt. You got control over the actions of a game?
No, but there's some certain things you would think are different in the game, and maybe even Kelly's in the game at that time. But for whatever reason, I just don't think the guy would have gotten hurt. That play would never happen.
Make your last point, Barry.
Save us, caller.
Okay, I will say one other thing, though. They were fortunate in the fact that Syracuse made some very bad decisions about clock management. With about 12 and a half minutes left in the game, they stopped them on 2 straight possessions, and when they got the ball, I bet they didn't even run a minute off the clock. And the other thing too, if it would have been me, I would have loaded that box up, and I said, well, if Eddie N beats me, that's great. Well, which he turned around doing anyway, but at least you would have had that box filled up. And if this freshman quarterback beats me, if he completes passes on me and ever so be it, I'll tip my hat to him.
Yeah,
but I think that was foolish on Syracuse's part.
The one thing that Dino Babers did do or didn't do was basically hang on to his timeouts as long as he did. The fact that he didn't take any timeouts on defense in that 13-play, 94-yard drive to give his offense any semblance of time, especially knowing that they were going to have or that they were going to need a touchdown if they allowed a touchdown. That just to me was terrible clock management.
Yeah. He should have left himself some time. He should have left himself some time at the end of the game.
I will say this. We talked about
I still want to know how you know that Trevor Lawrence wouldn't have gotten hurt if Kelly Bryant had been there.
I think
he would be in the game. They weren't going to go into this thing where he was being pulled out. He would have been in the game.
Here's what I'm talking about. Because I think, and maybe, Will, you saw it in the stadium, I thought when he got the start, even though he was looking relaxed, I thought he was pressing.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of his passes were sailing. So he said, I got to make a play here.
He was closing his eyes a lot and just chucking and ducking.
And I think if he'd have hit his first few passes, he would have just stepped out of bounds. But he said, I got to make a play here. And he tried to stay in bounds, and that's when he got hit.
He got some rude awakenings. There was some chuck and duck in him.
He's still learning on the run in this particular case. He'll know better next time. 800-956-7266. More of your calls coming up right here on Sports Talk.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
It is Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Hope you're enjoying yourself today. Again, Missouri comes to town for South Carolina. Oh, boy. That offense against South Carolina's defense, which, by the way, Corn -4 in turnover margin after they were +18 over the last 2 years, thanks to Barrett Sallee and Larry Williams for combining on that stat that we found out earlier today. Wake Forest hosting Clemson. They're a 16-point favorite over the Tigers. Should be an interesting week here coming up, but we're still recapping the weekend that was for both the Tigers and the Gamecocks.
Yeah, and you're forbidden from talking about Missouri because, I mean, you're such a homer and such a fan.
I am not
for
even
Missouri, so you are on Missouri probation.
I will say this. Alma Mater doesn't look too bad of a pick this week when it comes to South Carolina. I don't know. If,
already started. Here it is Monday. He's picking Missouri.
I don't know if South Carolina.
You probably don't want the points, do you?
I probably don't need them.
You know what? Let's do a little side wager here. We'll put let's put $1. Put $1 on it right here, and a plate of barbecue. I've already taken some barbecue from you before.
I have learned my lesson. Never wager in favor of Missouri against South Carolina in wagers involving cord blue. That has never happened.
I have won my share of barbecue from you.
That's enough.
We got a bunch of people holding, and we still have our Terminex
best or pest
choice coming up here in a little bit. It might be you who's on the phone line right now. We'll see if we like you or not to do this. Let's go to Vern in Bishopville.
Oh, I don't like this.
I don't think it'll be Vern.
I don't like it.
Hi, Vern.
Hi. What's up? Put me up with Pelagic. You talk about talent. You don't have no talent, but you're on the radio, aren't you? Right?
What do you say, Vern?
You don't have any talent, but you're on the radio, don't you?
I got plenty of talent. I'm sitting right here.
Where is it? In your mouth? Where is it?
It's all over. It's all over.
He drips with talent, Vern. Drips.
You know what? You know what? I shouldn't say anything. I hold my peace, but I couldn't hold it any longer.
I understand.
You down in Carolina. You down in Carolina, but if the referee had did the right thing, Clemson would have lost. Clemson would have lost right up there in Clemson where you were.
What referee?
Clemson, right?
I do not love anybody other than myself.
You sure
I can second that.
You sure do.
Why do I love Clemson?
Like I wish I could have seen you face to face, But I'm going to get off the phone. My wife told me not to do that.
That's not a good idea.
Vern, what do you say? You saying the referee blew a call at Clemson? What are you talking about?
Vern's not going to be our contestant tonight for the Terminex Best and Pest. I can tell you that. I kind of knew that going into the call.
Vern didn't make a point during the entire call.
What was he talking about? Which call by the official helped Clemson? What's he talking about?
I can't.
There was not a call that benefited Clemson. There were people who were saying from the Syracuse side that Clemson was holding on the Travis Etienne touchdown pass, but having watched that 3 times, I can tell you it was just a wide open hole because they changed the line of scrimmage.
What we were saying, we were talking just in the office, was the fact that ACC teams may be getting some film to see what Syracuse does that keeps them close with Clemson that they can't
Dino
do.
Baber is probably going to be selling some state secrets of whatever the heck he has over Brent Venables. Because, again, I'm not sitting here and saying that Syracuse is a talented team, but they have something on Clemson.
Got a quarterback. They got a quarterback. And they got some receivers. Got a dangerous little receiver and punt returner. They got some talent. And he runs a –
they're not to be laughed at now.
This is what they have. They have an offensive identification.
Yes.
South Carolina, not to switch gears, but it's true. I even heard the Kentucky radio crew as I was walking down to the field. They had the game playing inside. You could hear they were saying, "What does South Carolina want to be on offense?" How many times
trying to figure that out the last 2 years?
Have we heard that in the 3 years that Muschamp has been there? What are they trying to be on offense? Are they trying to be spread? Are they trying to be RPO? Are they trying to line up and be a power run team? What do they want to be? You got to commit to something.
Disappointment.
And you got to have a coordinator who's got an offense and believes in his offense. Now, maybe they do. Maybe Brian McClendon has got one and it's going to evolve and develop here over time. But they didn't show it Saturday. And, South Carolina cannot continue in these games against the better teams on their schedule having these paltry offensive outings, or the result's going to be they better score points against Missouri because Missouri's going to score some points. Their quarterback, Drew Lock, their other weapons, they got a tremendous receiver, really good running back, a tight end who's excellent.
Great tight end.
So, all right, back to the phones. 800-956-7266. Delvin in Fountain Inn, a much friendlier guy. Hello, Delvin.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Delvin, it's good to hear from you.
Yeah, I think the last caller, Vern, I think you were talking about Isaiah Thomas. He got away with a roughing the passer. I mean, they call it on your boy Clay Matthews at Green Bay.
Different
They call it on Isaiah Thomas at the end of the game.
Different
no
rules.
doubt.
Different rules
If
in the
that-
NFL versus the college game.
If
Very
that
different
were the
rules.
NFL, that's a flag.
I said the same thing in the game. I said it says Xavier Thomas had a hit that would have been illegal in the National Football League.
Which is sad for the NFL.
Has nothing to
sad
do with
for the
anything.
NFL.
That's more an insult to the NFL.
Don't everybody was tweeting at the end of the game. They said, man, you said that would be NFL. If he did that play, Clemson would have been born right now because they would get Syracuse another chance to probably win the game or something.
I went right up to him after the game and I said, so you basically ate a human being. What did that feel like? And he's like, yeah, that was pretty awesome. No, you're confounding rules in the National Football League versus college football.
Sounded more like a fanboy question than a true journalist question.
Oh, shut up.
So you've lost. So what you're transferring your love from Trevor since he's hurt. Now you're applying it to Xavier Thomas.
I love 96. That's my only love in this state.
Anything else, Delvin? Hey, let's let Delvin. Delvin, you know what? You're such a good guy. You're a longtime caller. I think you deserve an attempt here at the best and pest contest from Terminix. You game?
Okay.
All right, stand by.
It's time for the Terminix Best Fan or Pest Fan of the Week. For over 70 years, Terminix has helped Carolina fans protect what they love about living in the South, from football Saturdays to Sunday brunch.
And we amend that to say Carolina and Clemson.
State of South Carolina.
The state of South
Everybody.
Carolina.
All right, here we go. You ready, Delvin?
We are one Carolina.
All right, see if you can answer these three questions. Numero uno, Chase Bryce played at Grayson High School in Georgia. Who was his head coach for part of his career?
Mickey Pond.
Oh,
hey,
you are all over that. All right, number two. I sounded like Will when I said that. Number two.
Really?
Who is the last team to defeat Clemson? This is a Will question. Who was the last team to defeat Clemson?
Actually, the Tim Beret question.
While allowing the Tigers 200 rushing yards or more.
I'll give you a hint. It's an ACC team.
Last team to beat Clemson when Clemson rushed for 200 or more yards.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, you said.
No. Georgia Tech.
Oh, okay.
All right, here you go. You still got a chance to salvage this.
2009, that was. 45 consecutive games, 200 yards or more, and they had won.
That was in the ACC championship game that year.
Correct.
When Georgia Tech actually was good.
Yes.
They haven't been good since.
They have not.
Finally, Kentucky has won 5 in a row over USC. Who else can stretch winning streaks versus USC to 5 games this season?
Clemson.
And the second one.
There's 2 of them.
First one's Clemson.
Still to come. It's a game still to come, obviously. Give you a little hint there.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. I'm trying to think of the schedule.
It's a team that's never.
They've been talked about tonight.
It's a team that's never beaten or never lost to USC.
Is it Texas A&M?
Yeah.
We spoon-fed it to you, but it's okay.
Delvin, congratulations. And for your efforts, we give you the Sports Talk pat on the back and wish you well. And thank you for listening.
Thank you for my call, guys.
Yes, sir.
That's how we do it. Terminix Best or Pest Fan.
Break is coming up.
We still
Sports
haven't gotten somebody who's done all 3 correctly.
No, I think we did.
I still say. I
thought the first one we did, they nailed all 3 of them.
Yeah, I still giving the Pest Fan to Vern.
Vern, you get half an award there.
Vern didn't make a point. It's the first time we've ever taken a call on the Sports Talk.
You there on the radio and you ain't got no talent.
There's no point to that call.
Well, it was an attack call. He just wanted
an attack call.
He wanted to
attack.
Maybe you should listen to his wife more because his wife said he shouldn't be calling a radio station like that.
That's true. Next hour, we'll have First and 10 with Zak Willis. Got a chance to see Zach in Kentucky. He looks great, doing great. Looking forward to having him with us.
Come get your mans, Vernon Bishopville.
We got some notes from around the SEC and ACC games from this past weekend we'll share with you. We've got recruiting coming up as well. Clemson had a big unexpected visitor, I think, in terms of who knew he was going to be there kind of thing. And we'll be back with more.
Round 2 of your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show. 800-956-7266.
Welcome back to Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, 800-956-7266. Recruiting coming up. Will Pelagic. Zak Willis, 1st and 10 with Zak Willis coming up in a little bit.
You mean my cage match with Vernon Bishopville coming up?
I would love to get that on TV.
I don't know if we get Vern out of his walker.
By the way, our website, SportsTalkSC.com, it's always there for you for free, 24 hours a day. And our poll question of the week is, who wins, USC or Missouri? A lot of folks voting already. 66% say Mizzou.
Sign of the devil.
Gamecock fans, you can't quit on your team right now.
No, Gamecock fans are fickle, man.
This is the season for South Carolina Saturday.
Dude, they've already given up, man.
No, they haven't.
The Gamecock fans are fickle.
This is the season. I think if they don't beat Missouri.
No, the season happened on Saturday. It was over.
You think the Kentucky game?
Yeah, I think it's over.
I think a road loss to a nationally ranked team, even though you stunk, you can still write that off. But a home loss to Missouri would be unacceptable in year 3.
I think 5 losses to Kentucky in a row is unacceptable enough.
Well, I don't disagree, but I'm just saying a home loss and that place, I tell you what, they don't have the biggest stadium, Commonwealth Stadium, Kroger Field. It's about 62,000. But, man, when it is packed as it was Saturday night and they're all in blue and they're behind their team, very great.
They removed some of the seating, didn't they? Because they used to seat 71.
They repurposed it. Now, here's the thing. South Carolina fans, I've heard from so many South Carolina fans who've, it's a noon kick, and, I don't want to deal with the noon, and I don't have enough time to drink. They've already built up all their excuses for why they're not going to show up on Saturday. I expect a 3/4 full, listless Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday. I think Missouri's going to come in here and walk.
I don't disagree. I mean, I think they'll be lucky to have 65, to be honest with you. 12 o'clock kick, down right now. Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it'll be – I'll be shocked if they have more than truly 65. They'll announce more than that, but in the seat, 65 I think would be about what they can do.
This whole situation is taking the wind out of the sails of Gamecock fans, and maybe it's just they just don't – I don't want to say they don't love their team the same way Clemson fans do, but, I mean, maybe there's something
winning creates love.
Yeah, winning creates love, because if you were
winning
here,
creates love in a big way.
If you were here and when Spurrier was here with Lattimore and Clowney,
they loved it.
Well, it was easy to gain confidence in a guy like Spurrier.
As somebody once told me, who's very wise, he said, Corn, he goes, when you win, the cheerleaders are prettier, the band is better, and the stadium is just so much of a better setting. It's all about the winning. And Dabo Swinney loves to say the fun is in the winning. And they're doing a lot of that up at Clemson.
Will is such a Tiger fanboy. Bring back K-Mac. This dude's a homer. I'm not a homer. I'm telling you the truth.
He is a Tiger fan. Missouri.
No, come on.
Come on. You can.
Come on now.
Come on, Will. All right, we're going to find out this week. Let's get back to calls, and I want to do recruiting, and then Zak Willis will be here. Mike in Augusta. Welcome into Sports Talk. Is it North Augusta or Augusta? I think it's North Augusta. Hey, Mike, how are
North
you?
Augusta.
Hey, how are you?
Yes, it is. It's North Augusta.
Yeah.
I think what's got Carolina fans and me myself frustrated is where there's no doubt there's still some talent deficiencies, and it's not going to get better for a couple more years. I know people hate to hear that, but I saw a stat where there's only like 3 players from the prior staff on defense that's even playing, and that would be your seniors and your redshirt juniors, and that means you're still playing some young guys, but that's another story for another day. What I wanted to talk about was I read somewhere where there was explosive play cyclones like 120 seconds in country.
Yes, Barrett Sallee put that up.
You said something on offense, but the other night, as bad as it was, and it was bad, they had 6 plays that Kentucky had nothing to do with it that would have been explosive plays.
Yes.
The 2 drops by Edwards, the punt return by Edwards, the one where Bentley scrambled out of pocket, and I think he had Rico Dattle behind the secondary underthrew him. And then for unexplicable reason, A.J. Turney just tripped.
Just fell down.
Looking at
150
yards of offense with probably another 150 yards of offense which puts them up there close to 500 yards offense, and I don't know how many.
Mike,
that's unbelievable.
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned what I'm saying, because I think, there's some deficiency in talent, but they beat themselves. Every time.
I agree.
They beat themselves.
I am not a Tiger fanboy, but I can at least look and see where there is talent and where there isn't.
If you have to apologize before you make a statement,
I'm not apologizing to make a statement. I'm telling you where there is talent and where there isn't. There isn't talent in South Carolina right now compared to the two teams they've lost to.
But no,
just
Kentucky,
don't agree with
Kentucky, no.
They got some talent. Listen, Jake Bentley was one of the highest rated quarterbacks in the country in his class. He's got to play bigger. He's got to play better. You know what? Is it fair to put it all on the quarterback? I'm not going to say it's fair to put it all on the quarterback, but great quarterback play can help you cure a lot of ills with your offense.
Yeah, under 50% passing and 3 picks doesn't exactly help you.
Get it against Kentucky or in these big games. You go back, look at his career in most of the big games. He has struggled for whatever reason. Go ahead.
Well, let me tell you something about what you said about Kentucky. I don't think if they're that much more talented than South Carolina, you've got to have more than 50 yards of offense in the second half. They had one drive, and the rest of their half did nothing.
Yep.
So if they're that much more talented, what happened? Did South Carolina just all of a sudden they get some new players in the second half? No, they just played. They played what they were supposed to play.
But they couldn't get the offense to make up for it.
Nothing.
Okay, they couldn't.
I agree, but the reason is because they dropped passes. They tripped all over themselves. They block in the back on the punt return. Those are just plays that Carolina's at fault. I'm not saying they played good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they played horrible, but I think it was because they played bad, not that Kentucky played great.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your phone call. I'm just glancing here. Just, you know me, I don't hang my hat on recruiting rankings, but this is what people look at, and I'm looking back at USC's classes going back through 2016. So Muschamp's first class was ranked 26th. His next two classes were ranked inside the top 20. So indication is that
you know how much you love recruiting rankings.
Well, I only use this when it helps my argument, when it fits my argument. The only time but you have, it gives you something to look at.
Selective jurisdiction.
Well,
there.
Okay, fine. Call it what you want to. But the last two recruiting classes have been top 20 classes, and you can look at some of the players individually and say that's a good player. Josh Vann, heavily recruited. Jemias Williams, heavily recruited.
He's been great this year. Just say it.
Which one?
Jemias Williams.
Well, he's been hurt a lot.
Yeah,
I think maybe his size is affecting him here.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like every time he's out there, he's getting hurt.
Because he's still ticked off that he's not starting.
It was great.
Let's hit one more call very quickly. Clark in Greenwood. Hello, Clark. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Good.
I got a comment. One thing is first comment for the caller, Barry. They called a few calls back about why didn't Syracuse stack the box? They did stack the box the whole second half, and Clemson pushed them around, and that's why they ended up winning the football game. And it come down to Clemson wanted it more. That's me personally. On the second comment I got, Jake Bentley and Joyner better enjoy their time at quarterback, because as soon as the California kid gets there, it's all over for both of those guys. And he's a stud, and he's going to do good things for Carolina. So, but anyway, that's all I got about that. And, I don't care how good Joyner is. He's not the quarterback. Was it Helinski? Is that his name?
Yes.
Ryan Helinski.
Yes.
Now, that's a player.
He's going to yeah, right. He'll be the next.
I don't know if he is or not.
Who knows? I mean, listen, I'm not throwing in the towel on Jake Bentley by any means. He's got to play better. He's got every bit the credentials coming out of high school that this kid had. Well, except he didn't play his senior year of high school. Had he played his senior year of high school at Opelika, he probably would have played and won the National All-Star games. He would have racked up more yards and accolades coming out of high school, Elite 11 and all those stars and everything. There's nothing wrong with his credentials coming out of high school and his pedigree.
Guy who used to sit in his seat never got so much love, man. People are on.
Everybody hated K-Mac. Don't worry, you'll never reach the point where you're hated as much as he was.
People are on one
and
tonight.
Still is. He's still despised.
People are still on one tonight, man.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Before we get to our favorite time of the week, 1st and 10 with Zak Willis. One would like to avail us of tonight's recruiting.
Yep, and Zach loves recruiting, so I do this in his honor since I saw him in person yesterday for lunch in lovely London, Kentucky, not London, England.
Was it foggy? No.
Just down the road from Paris. Offensive
Texas.
lineman, defensive end Cooper Dawson of Hanahan was at Clemson Saturday. He said it was awesome, great experience. Now, the thing with him in Clemson is they're talking gray shirt with him, and he says that's not a deal breaker for him. He is going to be taking officials to Army November 3rd, UCF November 10th, Vanderbilt December 7th. He's also looking at Princeton, so he's a very smart guy as well as a very good football player. Still considering Clemson strongly despite the gray shirt situation at this point. Paul Strelo, Tiger Illustrated, reported Quavaris Crouch of Charlotte was at Clemson Saturday, linebacker, running back. He's also been to NC State, takes an official to Michigan next weekend, and Strelo reports an official at Clemson November 17th. Defensive end Dallas Corbett of Gray Collegiate went to UCF Saturday, feeling strong about the Knights, and he tells us that probably going to commit soon. Going to talk more with his parents, but that could come this week. USC offered 2020 receiver Michael Redding, IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. Basketball, Gerald Drumgoole made his official to USC over the weekend, said it was great, loved the campus, loved watching them practice, thinks a lot of Frank Martin's style of play, and so the Gamecocks are very much in his thinking. Spent a lot of time with Mania Lawson and Keyshawn Bryant. No leader at this point. Plans to take officials to Miami, Georgia, and Georgetown before making a decision. That should be, I think that should be Minnesota and not Miami. I think I mistyped that. I have to double check, but it's not Miami. Clemson point guard target Alamir Dawes has set an official with St. John's for October 12th. That's according to the New York Post. He took an official to Clemson this past weekend. He's already been to Providence as well. 6'9" P.J. Hall of Dorman was at Georgia Saturday. Had a real good time, he said. Really likes Coach Crean. Got to know him better. He's also been to USC, Clemson, and Florida. And in baseball, USC got a commitment for the class of 2022.
Oh,
wow.
Goodness.
Shortstop right-hander Jack Reynolds of AC Flora wrapped up his recruiting. Get that Reynolds rap? I just made that up right then and there.
Oh, boy.
And that's according to Prep Baseball Report that he committed to the Gamecocks.
Glad we got through this recruiting report without an outburst.
Yes. All right. Speaking of an outburst, let's welcome in for 1st and 10 with Zak Willis. Zak Willis. That's why we call it 1st and 10 with Zak Willis. Hey, good seeing you yesterday, my friend.
Yes, sir. It was a true pleasure anytime we get together and eat.
Please tell me Corn picked up the tab.
Of course I did.
He picked it up and handed it to Zach.
I think a third party. Third party.
Handed it to a third party member there. I believe.
All right, sir. So I always like to begin with the bad news. So let's talk about South Carolina's performance right there in your current home state, and a real stinker in the first half. But they put up a fight in the second half, but couldn't get enough offense going. What do you think of it?
Well, I was not real. It just was hard to watch. What I was afraid was going to happen, it's what happens when you run into a bunch of kids in Kentucky who are believing everything that they're told. They believe they can win, and that is a powerful thing. I heard you guys talking about talent. South Carolina's more talented in some positions than Kentucky. It's pretty much an even matchup. But UK right now, Benny Snell is Matt Snell's nephew who played with the Jets, who won the ultimate upset in any Super Bowl. When Joe Namath and those cats won, Matt Snell was the fullback, and Benny Snell selling the same bag of Kool-Aid to these guys, and they're drinking it, and they're getting the same results.
It's weird, Zach. I look at this team from South Carolina, and I think, why does this happen? Is it is it just why do they continue to beat themselves in big games and come up small in these games where they should be playing better?
Well, first it also focus on fundamentals. They need to get rid of all this, I'm going to call it cultural clutter in their program. You know, they got the little cute sayings like all gas, no brakes. And, you know, you don't have a head coach as Coach Muschamp. He's Coach Boone. You know, I don't know if they're trying to be rap stars or football coaches. And they need to forget about all that stuff and focus on what's important. That's blocking and tackling and ball security. There was a lot of things I went back and rewatched. The incomplete route concepts are still plaguing them. A lot of times what you saw as far as Bentley looking really bad was the receivers weren't in the right spots, and he had nowhere to go with the ball before he went. When he threw passes, the route concepts are incomplete. They're not running the whole concept to stretch the defense. Therefore, you can have two DBs all over Deebo Samuel on the corner route, and they just pick it off like it's returning a punt. So they've got a lot of work to do from that standpoint. I don't see any offensive coordination. I've held it to this game, but they talk about pace. They can't keep a consistent pace, even when they get chunk plays. And they've gotten Bentley out of his comfort zone, and his footwork fundamentally has deteriorated terribly.
Why is that? I mean, he should be moving forward with his performance.
It's coaching, Phil. I mean, you know, I told you yesterday, you know, I hate to say this stuff, but a guy, his ability, coming from the background I know he has personally, you know, you go back and look at his footwork as a true freshman, look at it right now. His plant foot is wrong. He's throwing the ball with open hips, which means he's getting no push on the ball. That's why those balls are floating now. They don't have the zip on, so he's not able to step into it. And unless he was hiding an injury for the last 4 games, which is what they played, his footwork's gone backwards.
Well, it looked like he injured himself during the game with a knee, and they did say that he had a knee injury, and a lot of that late third quarter, early fourth quarter, he was playing on one foot. It was obvious.
Yeah, it was. Now, he's doing this in the first half, but definitely in the second half, I wouldn't question the kid's heart or talent, but they got to get their offense together. I mean, you know, down on the 21-yard line, second quarter, 3:06 to go in the half, they try to run what we call a mesh route, which is 2 receivers crossing over the middle of the field. They run it in correctly and then swing a running back into the zone they want to throw the ball to. His man comes up and waylays Williamson because he should have been swinging the opposite way to get people out of the way because it's basically a pick play. And I'm sitting there going, guys, that play's been around forever. Leave the running back in the block, which they could have used some help there, although it was a little better, or swinging into the weak sideline. Don't do that. You're setting your kids up to fail.
Now, the key point when you look at South Carolina, this is before, and of course, the Groundhog Day effect, because every team they play, they either throw a pick six to start the game or fumble as they did against Kentucky and set them up with an easy touchdown. But Zach, it's almost in the DNA when South Carolina
got a field goal
successful is the fact that they run the football. And I still see a team that's not stubborn enough to run the football. I mean, just run it. You know, you're going to get stuffed sometimes, but if you're stubborn enough, you're going to make some space, and those guys are going to get better at running the football.
You know what? To prove your point, Pro, when I was at Michigan State, we won that Big Ten championship. We did a study, and we found out every time we had 25 attempts or more a game, not a certain amount of yards, but just 25 attempts per game, we won 85% of those games. When you think about that, that's just attempts. And we went by that. They still go by that to this day, and they have success doing that. And you can see the talent is there, but the organization on the offensive side, the coordination in general, the overall, the kids are not going to be confident when you're running them into each other. And Bentley knows what a smash route is. He knows that there's supposed to be a hitch underneath. That kid knows that when his coaches aren't having that done for him, he's going to go do what he's told to do, but don't think he's going to believe in it, or none of the rest of them are. The difference in South Carolina and Kentucky right now is confidence. That's it. Confidence.
All right, hang on, Zach. We'll come back and talk about Clemson, your take on the Tigers, your take on their quarterback situation, and the departure of Kelly Bryant from the scene, but the ability of the Tigers to overcome and win a game against Syracuse, a very important game for them.
You know, you talk about who I'm a fanboy of. I'm a fanboy of Zak Willis, man. That guy,
I know,
he gets it.
In fact, I wish you would take that big fathead picture of Zak down from
Zak
behind
Willis and the Tigers.
He is just Zak. Still have to get to the high school sports report with David Shelton coming up later on in the program, but we continue with Zak Willis, 1st and 10 extended. We gave you an automatic first down, Zak. So we now expand our chatter about the Clemson Tigers. I was up there. It was precarious. It was about as silent at times as I had heard a Death Valley crowd. Zak, did the Tigers sneak out the back door, or did they show you something with the way they had a close call against Syracuse?
They showed me something. That whole team showed me. If you want to know why Clemson's good, you watch that game, okay? Because it goes to show you when people pull together and they don't care who gets the credit and they just go with everything they got. And as Dabo coined years ago, they bring their own guts to the table. That's what happens.
That's a catchphrase that works.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is this: you gotta be legit with those things, because they'll backfire on you. Dabo doesn't say anything he doesn't mean, and people call me whatever. I don't care what you call me. I'll tell the truth. He's a straight shooting son of a gun. He's a good old boy, but his team will pop you in the mouth and whip you on the football field physically, and they proved that Saturday. Because Syracuse is not some chump. They were 4-0 for a reason.
Yeah. What about the way on the fly, because they lose their quarterback who's going to throw the ball all over the park, have to come in with an inexperienced guy? And I imagine, and I'm sure you've been in this situation before as a coach, you plan all week and you game plan and you have a concept, and then it has to go out the window, right? What does a coaching staff do when you have to change your approach offensively in the midst of a game?
Well, obviously, Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott are probably the MVPs, because they had to adjust their play calling, not just conceptually right down to the nuts and bolts of what they were doing, and literally morph into a power run team to get this ball game won. And, of course, when you have one of the best defensive fronts in the history of college football, it certainly doesn't hurt things. But they did an absolutely fantastic job of adjusting.
Well, Zach, I got to tell you, and just looking at the players' performance, and when Trevor Lawrence went down and you had to go to your second quarterback who has no experience, and part of football is you play the game because it's fun. And I thought every time Clemson's running backs ran on the field, somebody yelled, "It's a banquet," and there's seconds. And it's our time now. It won't be many forward passes. Give us the ball and let us run with it.
I mean, that's the attitude of a champion pro. Is they go out there looking for their opportunity to contribute to that team and to show what they can do and compete. They went out there to compete. And you Dabo at halftime, like, hey, we've got to play what we got. I can't worry about that. Totally composed and calm. He believed in his team. He believed in his philosophy. And guess what? Everybody else down there does too. And it's working. He's got proof that it works. And that was a powerful, powerful win from a psychological standpoint of what they were able to overcome, because that would have defeated a lot of teams what went on down there last week.
Your take on Chase Bryce, what you were able to see of him, and then your thoughts on Kelly Bryant walking after being demoted.
On Chase Bryce, Chase is a great kid, highly, highly intelligent football player, not as talented as the other two, but he'll get better as he goes. One thing they do there is develop players, and they're constantly telling him he can do it. My take from Kelly Bryant, he ain't transferring, he's quit. And I think if anybody knows anything about me, you know what I think about quit. I don't have any excuse for it. I'm a team guy right up until I don't get my way, and then I take my ball and go home. There's guys that never touch the field at Clemson that are on that team giving it everything they got every day. It may get to play their senior year a little when they're blowing somebody out. And, he's no better than they are. He did the same thing in high school. He left Abbeville and went to Renton, from what my friends in South Carolina tell me. And you can quit one time, Phil, and it's hard. But after that, it gets easier, whether it's marriage or a job or anything else you do in your life. Now, this is a coach in me. And I'm going to be honest. I think he's a fine young man. I think he was emotional. He's probably got some people in his ear saying things that maybe make him feel better now and will make him make a bad decision. I hope he goes back to Coach Sweeney and they work it out, because they're going to need him. He could have been the hero Saturday. He could have won his job back Saturday afternoon after a quarter and a half of play. Think about that.
Yeah.
Seem like, according to what Dabo said, that door is at least closed right now. But I do want to ask you, just from the defensive standpoint, because I'm pretty sure that Dino Babers can sell some pretty expensive secrets to what he has on Brent Venables, because this is 2 years in a row now that they have exposed some weaknesses that nobody else in the ACC has been able to do. What did you see from that perspective?
Well, it goes back to the trips concept. I've harped on it. Clemson's boundary coverage, and especially when you put your formation into the boundary, three receivers into the boundary. Brent overloads that side, and it gives the wide side of the field. They're weak in the box area, which is the curl area between the numbers and the hash mark for the fans, so they know where to look. And that's where they hurt them with the run game, weak side run game, and the pass game. And they also got them in a man-to-man situation. Was smart and saw it. They had a safety number 24, I forget his last name, who got mismatched
Nolan Turner,
on one of their better receivers. Yeah, and they got that matchup one time. But Dungy is a great quarterback. He'll play in the NFL, and he dropped it in there, and they took advantage of every single thing Clemson gave them and then some. So, Dino Babers is a heck of a coach, always has been, and I don't think he's going to be selling those secrets to anybody. But if I was the rest of the ACC, I'd sure be buying and at least watching that tape a bunch.
Yeah, but who's got talent to do it like Syracuse does?
I mean,
that's left.
Dungy's a difference maker. Florida State does. They just got to get their act together. I don't know what's going on down there.
Their coach sucks.
And it's kind of weird that Dungy comes all the way from Oregon to Syracuse. That is crazy. About Trevor Lawrence going forward, because Zach, I got to tell you, the kid is 6'6", but he scares me coming out of the pocket. And when he got hit, I was yelling, "Get down, get down!" And I was hoping he'd go into a slide. And then he went head first. I said, "Oh no, that 6'6" frame. You have to do a little bit of different things to avoid a hit, don't you?"
I agree with 100%, and I guarantee you every coach, every fan that knows anything that wears orange, and maybe even some that don't, that just love kids like I do, that's got to stop. They're going to, and they know they can't run the ball with the quarterback. I'm pretty sure they're going to do it when they can, but you got to protect him. He can beat you with his arm and the rest of the weapons he has around him. That running game destroyed Syracuse with 9 in the box at times. It didn't matter. The O-line showed just how good they are yesterday. I think they've been kind of a sleeping giant and they woke up. But yeah, he can't take hits like that. No quarterback can, especially a freshman. They have not been in that weight room enough. And at 6'6", he needs to put on 20 pounds of muscle before he even thinks about doing it. And I'd still tell him to slide or run on out of bounds.
Hey, Zach, we thank you, my friend. As always, great seeing you yesterday, and have yourself a great week. We'll talk to you next Monday.
Thank you, guys.
Zak Willis, 1st and 10 here on Sports Talk.
He is like –
I know you love him, blah, blah, blah.
He is the football equivalent of Dave Miller. Dave Miller was a former coach in the NBA and ended up being on the Laker broadcasts. They break it down better than anybody can in their respective sports.
All right, here are some notes I compiled from the SEC, ACC games over the weekend. Clemson plays Wake Forest. Sam Hartman was 15 of 17, 241 yards and 4 touchdowns, all 4 to his receiver Dortch, had 11 catches for 163 yards.
That Dortch is a difference maker. You got to watch him on Saturday.
I would say so. Neither Virginia Tech nor Duke rushed for 100 yards in their game. Florida State beat Louisville with 76 rushing yards.
Hey, what happened to Duke? They got walloped.
Francois threw 4 touchdown passes. NC State's Ryan Finley, Clemson will see him soon, 22 of 32, 257, 3 touchdowns in that win over Virginia. Boston College rushed for 275 yards in the win over Temple. Dillon had 161. LSU with 573 yards in the win over Ole Miss. Florida held Mississippi State to 202 yards and had 6 sacks. Here come the Gators. Auburn held Southern Miss to 45 rushing yards. Georgia held Tennessee to 209 yards, 66 on the ground. The Bulldogs rushed for 251 yards. Arkansas held to 55 rushing yards against A&M. The Aggies Williams had 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. Alabama, 608 yards, including 268 in its win over Louisiana.
Not shabby.
We'll be back.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Now time for the Sports Talk High School Report, which is presented by the folks at Farm Bureau Insurance. With Fave Rates from Farm Bureau Insurance, you get all your favorite things like competitive rates, local agents, and great claim service for all your auto, home, life, and insurance needs, all 3 in 1. Get a no-obligation quote today at faverates.com from Farm Bureau Insurance.
All right, time to welcome in the best in the business. David Shelton here to Sports Talk with the Charleston Post and Courier High School Sports Report. Knows all, tells all, sees all about high school football. So Spartanburg and Dorman did not disappoint. Long time, heated rivalry. This thing kind of goes back and forth like a pendulum. One is up, the other one's down. Sometimes they're both at a high level. Dorman kind of ruling the roost there right now, but it took a last-second touchdown Friday night for them to pull it out.
Yeah, Dorman opened this game and just kind of imposed their will and took an early lead, and it kind of looked like, following on Twitter is like, boy, this might get ugly. But Spartanburg pulled something from within and got back in the game, actually took the lead. It's a tough loss, but I think Chris Miller will be pleased with what he saw from his team because they have not put it together yet. But for Dorman, they probably, they're ecstatic about the win, but they probably have questions now because, they blew that big lead but they did show some resolve and came back and won the game. They're still, in my mind, they're still one of the top 2 or 3 teams in 5A. And I think that will bear out over the next couple of weeks.
Let's talk about Dutch Fork. They just continue to roll along. I mean, it's a joke how badly they're just not winning. I mean, they're just annihilating everything, and they're like a tornado. They just annihilate everything in their path. 70-7 over Chapin. Can anybody play with these guys in South Carolina?
Boy, it's there'll be some teams. I think Sumter's pretty good, and Berkeley and Fort Dorchester, but man, I don't know. I don't think so. You used to call these games interstate scores.
Yeah.
And they have taken every interstate in the Southern Hemisphere already this season. I mean, you name a number, they've run it up. And they're not slowing down. I mean, if they don't get injured, if they don't lose Ellenchuk, the quarterback, or Hoff or Galen Hyde, I mean, if they stay healthy,
yeah,
which, boy, I don't know. I mean, they literally could average 60 points a game for the whole season, and their first team defense has only given up 1 touchdown all year. So, these touchdowns they're giving up is not against the first teamers.
Could they go down? I mean, you look at their team, and their personnel probably better than I do. I mean, I know Hyatt is a Division I prospect, but it's not like year after year Tom Knotts is working with 5 or 6 or 7 major college players. He might have 1 or 2 here and there. How does he get it done year after year?
Well, I mean, the guy can coach, and the guy knows how to motivate and prepare. He obviously has a very good staff. I mean, you look at their quarterback, he's going to play baseball at Clemson, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So, they know how to identify their personnel. Their system is so strong. So they have great balance in their offense. They can throw it. They can run it. It's one of those teams that you prepare for and say, okay, we're going to take away this. Well, they have an answer. And defensively, I mean, just watch them on tape. They get after people. I mean, you're right. They don't have a lot of Division I guys on that defense. I mean, heck, they might only have 1,
mm-hmm.
but they play so well in the system, and they just believe. I mean, it's almost, I don't want to say arrogance, but man, they just believe when they walk on the field, they're better than you. And then they go out and prove it.
I've spent some time on that Interstate 70 you speak of there in Missouri. So it's definitely
it all goes back to Missouri because Missouri is coming to Columbia this weekend. And he's all about the Missouri Tigers, boy, because he loves his Tigers.
Stop it. What about in the Upstate? We saw Greer and Greenville play a tight one. What stood out to you in the Upstate, that game included?
Well, I think that game and the game Westwood at South Point, those are all 4A teams, and all 4 of them are going to be in the upper state bracket of the playoffs. One of them is going to come out of it, and it could be any one of the four. I would lean Greer, South Point. You know, Westwood had South Point on the ropes until late in that game, and Greenville, you know, played Greer very tough. Now, Greer didn't have their starting quarterback, which even makes you wonder how good Greer really is, because their backup played great. So, you know, those four teams right now in the 4A upper state, one of those teams is going to come out. You know, you could throw a sneaky team like Walhalla in there that's playing very well and beat Belton Honey past Friday night impressively. But I think those four that I mentioned one of those four is going to be their upper state representative.
EHP fell off the wagon there, David.
Yeah, they've lost twice. I mean, they're you know, that's not horrible, but they've got a good team. They got a good quarterback and good running back, and I think this Walhalla team is going to need some research, because, boy, they're playing very well. They're playing very well defensively. They're scoring plenty of points. They had a really good year last year. I think they won 9 or 10 games. So they seem to be building on that, and they could be a sleeper team to watch.
Well, tell me this. Did the punters get the night off in that East Side Travelers Rest game? 56-55 in overtime.
Yeah, that's probably one of those games. If you're a fan of offense, you probably bought a couple of boxes of popcorn and just sat back and watched them go up down the field. But yeah, that's not the night to be the punter, because you know, you really hope you're not the place kicker too, because it could come down to a missed extra point. But yeah, they went up down the field on each other, that's for sure.
All right, David, you got the big one, or one of the big ones this week down your way? Yeah,
Fort D's at Berkeley, and you know, Fort D, I've made a bunch of – Steve LaPrade reminds me that I remind him all the time that they haven't lost since 2014 to a low-country team. And this is the best shot. Berkeley at home, undefeated, very talented. We'll match them speed for speed, and I think it's going to be a very good high school football game on Friday.
Well, we look forward to talking more about it with you on Friday. We thank you, sir. Have a great week, and talk to you on Friday.
Perfect. Y'all take care.
All right. Thank you very much,
96,
David Shelton.
96-1 again, by the way.
All right. Some quick notes, and then we'll try and squeeze in a final call. The FCS ranking this week, Wofford remains at number 7. Had a big win over Gardner-Webb, 45-14. Some players of the week in the ACC from Clemson, Travis Etienne, the running back, and Mitch Hyatt, the offensive lineman. And the Southern Conference special teamer of the week is Furman's DeJuan Bell, had a long kickoff return for a touchdown. And the Big South special teamer is James Allen from Charleston Southern. Likewise, he had a kickoff return for a touchdown. The South Atlantic Conference player of the week for the second week in a row was Newberry punter and place kicker Shea Rogers, who was very good in their win. And new championship odds from Bovada Sportsbook. Alabama's 4-5, Clemson, Ohio State 11-2, Georgia 15-2, Notre Dame 15-1. All right, let's squeeze in very quickly before we say goodnight. A quick call, and it's James and Sumter's been holding. We got about 30, 40 seconds with you. James, fire away.
Okay. Quick comment. Hey, I think Dabo made the wrong decision. I think he should have worked it like Nick Saban. I think he should have kept both of them boys on there. And hopefully Trevor Lawrence don't get hurt. But I can tell you guys one thing. They will not beat Florida State or North Carolina State with that third-string kid. And I'll just hang up and listen and see what you guys say about that tomorrow night.
Thanks.
Listen, everyone's sitting here and saying that this two-quarterback system was sustainable. It obviously wasn't, and that is why Dabo made the move. He knew it was going to come to a head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you're right. They got away with one Saturday.
I don't think anybody disagrees.
They need Trevor Lawrence to be on that field and be healthy. Chase Bryce did a marvelous job in an emergency situation. Yes. He'll get better, but he doesn't give them what Trevor Lawrence gives them.
Any argument that starts with, oh, well, they should have kept it the way it is, it was not going to be sustainable the way it is. That is the point.
I like that running game, though. That might be something new they look at.
Tomorrow, follow our coverage of a Talking Tuesday. I'll be at Clemson. Will will be at USC. At SportsTalkSC, follow our tweets and more on our website, sportstalksc.com. Thank you, Brian. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.